My question is to the Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister rule out changing the current tax treatment of the family home?
Call to the Prime Minister. Order. Order. The House will come to order. The Prime Minister hasn't said a word. I remind all members about interjecting before a minister even begins speaking. The Prime Minister has the call.
Thanks, Mr.
To the Treasurer
Speaker.
as well.
The Treasurer does make a point. We have just introduced very significant legislation before this parliament to give every Australian a tax cut. Every Australian taxpayer, whether they own their home or not.
Order.
All 13.6 million of them.
Members on my left
and what
and
do they
right
talk
will
about?
cease interjecting.
They've had 2 weeks to think about their first question, and it has nothing to do with what we're doing, and something to do with something that no one will ever do. They've had a fortnight to think of it, Mr.
Members
Speaker.
on my left.
Because they've been all over the shop, Mr. Speaker.
Will cease interjecting.
When it became clear that we were going to have a position of supporting every taxpayer getting a tax cut, the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, because the Leader went missing for a while, the Deputy Leader charged out there. And she said, "We will fight this legislation in the Parliament." She went on, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
She said, "We don't even know what it will look like." She actually said that.
Order. Prime
There's
Minister.
no gap between the sentences.
Order. The Prime Minister will pause. The Minister for Climate Change and the member for Page. The member for McNamara is warned. I don't care if it's his birthday, but he is now warned. Order. The Leader of the Opposition, a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, my question was, will the Prime Minister rule out changing the current tax treatment of the family home? It was a very simple, straightforward...
Resume your seat. Resume your seat. The Prime Minister, I listened carefully to his answer, actually answered that part of the question directly. Order. Resume your seat. Order. Order. Members on my right, the member for Barker and the Leader of the Opposition will cease interjecting. The Prime Minister will just pause a moment. The Leader of the Opposition, the ministers on my right will cease interjecting, including the Minister for Home Affairs. It's only the first question. Just going to ask the. You got that right. I'm going to get the Prime Minister to return to the question.
Mr. Speaker, yes, I've answered the question. Now I'm adding to it, Mr. Speaker. Now I'm adding. Giving a bit of colour and movement, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Because last night I was there watching Nemesis. Watching all the coalition of hatred along there. An hour and a half that explains
Member for Grey.
in 3 parts why they were such a hopeless, divided government full of hate of each other. All played out, Mr. Speaker. And I was reminded that the Leader of the Opposition, his big commitment to be made leader, was that he'd smile more. It was going to be like Little Miss Sunshine, Mr. Speaker. It was going to be like Little Miss Sunshine.
Members on my right will cease interjecting.
Instead, he gave us Jack Nicholson in The Shining. You know, smashing through the walls. Here's Peter. Full of hatred, full of negativity, full of abuse. Come on. If you were fair dinkum, you'd vote against our measure and you'd commit to roll it back just like your deputy absolutely promised to. Yeah.